We are talking The Haunted Mansion, a 2003 Disney movie based on a theme park attraction in their Disney parks. Now, this one is primarily based off the Disneyland Paris Haunted Mansion attraction. They all have different kind of storylines as far as I know. And is a kiddie horror film, is the best way I'd describe it. Obviously, they had big success with Pirates of the Caribbean, so they've wanted to emulate it into other kind of attractions, and obviously this was one of them. And we're now seeing things like the Jungle Cruise come out with The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson coming out as well. So I'm sure we'll probably get, more, films based on rides through the years. But let's talk about 2003's The Haunted Mansion, a starring vehicle for Eddie Murphy. This one directed by Rob Minkoff. And what we have here, we have Eddie Murphy and his wife, played by Marsha Thompson, are a couple of real estate agents. And Eddie Murphy's character is portrayed to be somewhat of a workaholic, and he is really driving a little bit of a wedge through the family because of this. And they did plan to go on this kind of weekend away, but they are distracted by the potential sale of this huge mansion. So they kind of swing by, inevitably get trapped in there, and then the adventure ensues with kind of ghostly goings on as the owner of this house, this charming guy, may well be a ghost himself, and he has interests in Eddie Murphy's wife. And along the way, there's various kind of misadventures that will happen, including many kind of ghostly characters. So, first of all, let's talk about what works. So I have been on the Haunted Mansion rides, and I do quite enjoy them. Being somewhat of a horror fan, as you can probably guess, obviously I'm very interested in that ride in particular, and I do enjoy it. And I do feel the movie does sort of capture the essence of the rides to a certain degree, in its kind of like Louisiana Bayou kind of charm, if that makes sense. And the mansion itself, although obviously it's kind of a little bit cartoonified, I suppose, a little bit OTT, it's not made to be kind of realistic. Nonetheless, it does look pretty impressive and, gothically haunting, if that makes sense. There's one kind of standout scene which I feel is the only real scene of genuine kind of what you could call horror in the kind of like the zombie attack film, but it's a scene which is actually done fairly well for a kind of obviously a kids movie with real, corpses that look like zombies and stuff like that. The rest of the kind of the ghostly effects are more done to kind of comedic value here. But the set design, I think on a technical level, this movie is pretty impressive, like I said. I mean, a lot of it looks like sets rather than obviously kind of a real house. But nonetheless, it's still a technically interesting movie to look at with, good attention to detail and the kind of the decor and the kind of the scale of this kind of particular mansion. Although I never really get the sense of where you are in the mansion. You almost feel a little bit lost in there, and maybe that's the kind of the point. Eddie Murphy, I feel, feels a little bit handcuffed in this movie because it is a kids' film, and whilst Eddie Murphy, is always kind of enjoyable, I think he's better when he's kind of let loose in more kind of adult-orientated material. Here, I think you almost find he's struggling to hold himself in to a certain degree. The ghostly effects outside of the kind of the zombies, they're just kind of glowy people, misty stuff. Terence Stamp is quite fun as the kind of like the deadpan kind of butler here. I kind of quite enjoyed him. But to be honest with you, the actual story is kind of dull. And our family of characters seem very much like stock characters. As I say, I feel Eddie Murphy does his best with a limited amount of kind of stuff he can do, but it's never really particularly funny. I never really bought his marriage to kind of like his wife. She just seems far too young, to be honest with you. And the kids as well, again, they're just a little bit like, the acting isn't brilliant by them. And the story is just a little bit humdrum. It's just showing you different kind of, we seem to just go on this journey to find different kind of ghostly characters, and ultimately becomes a little bit of a fetch quest. Like I said, it's an interesting film visually, and it does remind me of the rides, but it's just not a particularly interesting movie particularly. I think maybe there's enough for kids to maybe enjoy it, But in one way, it doesn't go far enough, I feel, with, you know, I think the kids aren't going to be interested in kind of actors playing these with a bit of makeup on, and they want more kind of outlandish kind of ghosts in the realm of Casper and things like that. So I can understand why this movie didn't really hit with audiences, because I don't think it's particularly interesting and sophisticated enough for adults and not outlandish enough for kids. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.